Okay, so the story we're diving into today, it's just incredible. It's this deeply personal journey about family, about history, and this desperate search for who you really are. We're talking about the son of a German war hero who decides to become Jewish. And yeah, that decision basically puts him on a collision course with everything he's ever known.
All right, picture this. It's 1972, Munich. The whole world is watching the Olympics, but it's interrupted by that terrible hostage crisis with the Israeli athletes. Now, inside this one German house, the tension is just as high. An 18-year-old kid named Siegfried finally stands up to his father, Rudolf, who is a decorated veteran of World War II. And he says this. With these words, boom, a whole lifetime of secrets and anger just explodes.
So to really get why this was such a huge moment, you have to understand the massive gap between this father and son. You've got Rudolf, the old soldier, from a generation that just didn't talk about the war, ever. And then you have Siegfried, his son, who feels like he's literally suffocating in that silence.
For Rudolf, everything was about honor, obedience, and just bearing your feelings deep down. He literally tells his son, feelings are useless. And you have to understand, this wasn't just some quirky parenting advice. This was the mindset of a whole generation in Germany, a philosophy that left them completely unable to deal with their own history.
And this right here just lays it all out, doesn't it? The father, Rudolf, is still talking about things like Lebensraum, that Nazi idea of living space and having steel hearts. Meanwhile, his son, Siegfried, he just wants a hug. He wants comfort. And more than anything, he wants answers about this dark past that's hanging over their family. It's like they're living on two different planets.
Siegfried basically tells his dad, "You think not talking about it makes it go away? It does the exact opposite." And he's right. For his father, silence was like a wall to hide behind. But for Siegfried, it was like a poison, making all those ghosts from the past even scarier. He knew then he was on his own. He had to find the truth for himself.
And that frustration, it doesn't just simmer, it boils over into this full-blown rebellion. Siegfried's search isn't just about finding out what happened anymore. No, it becomes this epic quest to build a whole new identity for himself, one that's the complete opposite of everything he came from.
And this brings up the massive question at the heart of this whole story, right? I mean, how do you even begin to figure out who you are when your family's past, your nation's past, is tied to one of the greatest crimes in history? Where do you even start?
So Siegfried takes his first real step. And where does he do it? In a church confessional. But he's not there to confess any sins. Oh no, he's there to make a declaration. He's officially leaving the church. He's taking a sledgehammer to the pillars of his old world, and he's starting with religion.
And then he drops the bomb. He tells the priest his ultimate plan. It's not just that he's leaving his faith. He wants to join the faith of the very people his father's generation tried to wipe off the face of the earth. He wants to be a Jew. I mean, can you imagine? To that priest, to his family, this was just unthinkable. It was a complete revolution.
Okay, so it's one thing to say you want to be Jewish. It's a whole other thing to actually do it. So Siegfried finds a rabbi, Rabbi Hillel, to guide him. And the rabbi, well, he doesn't sugarcoat it. He lays out just how enormous, how life-changing this journey is going to be. The rabbi puts it to him plainly. Look, you can be Jewish or you can be German, but you can't be both. Not here, not now. People just won't accept it. So this wasn't just about faith. It was a massive social and political choice. Siegfried had to pick a side. There was no in-between.
And the actual process of conversion, it's intense. It's not just symbolic stuff. We're talking about a ritual bath, the mikvah, which is like a spiritual rebirth, a ritual circumcision, marking the covenant with God. And you have to stand before a court of rabbis to prove you're serious, all before you can even make the final promise.
And that final promise, it's huge. He has to commit to following 613, that's 613 mitzvot, or commandments. This isn't a part-time thing. It's a total commitment that shapes every single aspect of your life.
Yeah, there's this saying, a convert has to be twice as Jewish, and that perfectly describes the pressure Siegfried was under. If you're born Jewish, that's your identity. But for a convert, especially a German one in that time and place, you have to prove it. Every single day, you're living under a microscope.
So, against all odds, Siegfried does it. He completes this incredible journey and starts a brand new life. But here's the thing. Changing your name and your religion doesn't just make the old questions disappear. In fact, as we're about to see, it can lead to even bigger, more complicated problems.
And fast forward a few years, the change is just, wow. Siegfried is gone. He's now Zelig. He's an Israeli citizen. And get this, he's an officer in the Israeli army. The man is now literally fighting to defend the Jewish state. It's about as far as you can possibly get from his father's house in Germany.
To his commanding officer, it's all very simple. You're not German anymore. You're Israeli. End of story. His past doesn't matter. But as Zelig is about to find out, who you are is never, ever that simple.
And this is where the story gets a really gut-punching twist. The same guy who rebelled against his father's whole blind obedience thing now finds himself in a different uniform, being given orders he starts to question. He starts to see the suffering of the Palestinians, and his conscience just screams at him because he sees this terrifying echo of the very history he ran away from.
His colonel looks at him and says, "You are trying to escape your destiny, but no one can. That's why it's destiny." And those words, they must have just cut right through Zelig. Was this whole thing, the conversion, moving to Israel, joining the army, was it all just running in circles, only to end up right back where he started, facing the same demons?
And that's where the story leaves us, with Zelig. He's been stripped of his rank, he's facing a court-martial, and all he has left are questions. So many questions. His entire life was a search for answers, and all it brought him was more doubt, more conflict. He's lost all over again.
Zelig's journey is just incredible, from that living room in Germany all the way to a military courtroom in Israel. And it just forces you to ask yourself, right? Can any of us really escape the history we're born with? How much of you is the family you come from, and how much is the person you choose to be?
Listen, what we've talked about here, the confrontations, the search for a new soul, the impossible choices, it's honestly just scratching the surface. The full, unforgettable story is in the book Nazi Father, Jewish Son by Lázaro Droznos. If you want to find out what happens to Zelig and really dive into these massive questions, you just have to read it. We made it easy for you. The Amazon link to grab a copy is right there in the description.